Hi, I am Julia Melville, psychotherapist, energy worker, Kundalini yoga teacher, connecting our mind and our body, passionate about enabling breaking free from the negative mind. Zoe Hind is a soul astrologer, well-being coach, and personal trainer. Welcome, Zoe, for this month's Transcending the Negative Mind podcast in Virgo.
Virgo is the autumn earth sign of the harvest. So what we're dealing with here is the cycles of time, because harvest and agriculture is the core of most astrology before we get to the psychological aspects of it. So it's when we plant and how we grow and what we reap at the end of that cycle. So Virgo is a time when we all gather together, we work as a team, we bring in the harvest, everybody doing their parts. Some parts are shared out for fairness. Some parts of the harvest are stored for the winter months. Some parts of the harvest are turned into medicine and healing. So we've got a real connection here with earth, abundance, and the land, and our place in the cycle of the agricultural year. But with Virgo being ruled by Mercury, what we also have with this sign is it does tend to be a thinker. So it has to think, it has to be able to organise how to bring in that harvest and allocate fairly, that kind of thing. But that translates into the modern world as sometimes overthinking or over-serving. So we're looking at the mind-body connection largely with Virgo, where our mind is working for the big project to bring in the harvest, or where it's too focused on the detail and is allowed to run the show. So the mind-body connection is largely the aspect of Virgo that I'd like to talk about today with our Transcending the Negative Mind and how to help the mind work for a healthy, wholesome body and life.
Wonderful, thank you. And one of the reasons we created this podcast over the astrological calendar is about bringing more information to you about how much astrology impacts our daily life. I often think if the moon can change the tides of the sea around planet Earth, it doesn't get much more powerful than that. And I have certainly found over the last few years how having more information about the planets and the collective energies has supported me to understand my own energies. So we really hope that this podcast can guide you through this month of Virgo as well. Our mind impacts our body from a negative and a positive aspect. If you're feeling good and your thoughts are clear, life flows, our energies are upbeat, and yet so quickly that can change to a negative and critical mind. This can be brought about by how someone speaks to you, the language they use or the tone of their voice, maybe how they look at you. And in a second, our mood can change to one of doubt, fear, lack of confidence. So even if you started the day feeling good, this can quickly crumble and be replaced by criticism and doubt. As Zoe said earlier, Virgo has a teamwork aspect and a fairness. This is the time to focus on whether you and your body are a team. Maybe you might wonder what that means. Being a team player with our body is when we truly value, nurture, nourish, communicate, listen to, love, and respect ourselves. When these qualities slip, we abandon ourselves. We can fall back into our old patterns, to the negative stories we tell ourselves about how we are. We can be more reactionary with others when we are in this energy too. When we get caught up in these stories, we are no longer present with ourselves. We are either in the past or the future, maybe with the energy of regret or sadness or lack. The negative mind is incredibly powerful and can take us to a fearful place. I've been reflecting recently on how did we as humans develop such a fear of our own emotions, to the extent that doctors have intervened and prescribed medication to numb them down. The irony of having strong emotions is that if we allow ourselves to lean into them from a curious perspective, we start to gather more understanding. The next time you feel your emotions changing from positive to negative, drop down into your body, become aware of your breath, breathing deeply in so that your diaphragm expands, and exhaling out fully, pulling your navel towards your spine, and start to notice where you feel. Feel is the key word here. Where you feel the emotion in your body. Is it around your heart, in your chest, or maybe around your stomach? Once you have identified where you feel the energy, ask yourself, if this is a familiar feeling. And when was the first time you felt this energy? Be curious. See what it reminds you of, and then remember that it is not happening now. It was in the past, and that this energy is coming up to be healed and released.
Yep, that's all so beautiful, so true. The mind will always have us in the past with regret and retention, but it also can be cast forward into the future. And a big thing that Virgo experiences is anxiety. So anxiety is having had some perceived negative experience in the past and then projecting that forwards that it will happen again. And this all at real fundamental level comes from a fight, flight, survival mentality. So this is where we picked it up. We've been put into a fight, flight, survival mentality that's been very much calcified in the modern system. Everything's being done to survive. And therefore, the mind doesn't want us to experience the same aspect again. And it's just flagging up. Be careful, don't attract this again. But if the mind is taking itself seriously and nothing else is in control, then of course we'll be living in that state of anxiety. So Virgo in the body, because there's a zodiac body that runs from Aries in the head to Pisces in the feet. And Virgo with Mercury is ruled by the nervous system and the mind. In the main body, it's ruled by the digestive system, how we take in something and break it down into small parts. So we'll be coming on to digestion later. But if we look at the negative mind and the nervous system, then the breathing that you were just describing there, I would imagine many people will feel that throughout their body with the nerves, or in the energy centers where the nerves clump, if we look at the biology of the energy centers, so where those nerves are clumping and what that represents. So to get out of the negative mind, we have to very much give the mind a job to do, which should be the mantra of this entire series, really, Transcending the Negative Mind, because it's been put in control of everything. And really, it should be the heart that sets the tone and the mind that does the heart's bidding. So the heart is always in presence and the mind is always absent, creating negative drama. So if we really want to transcend, it's very much about being in the heart center, being in the present moment, attending to cleaning up any stories taken personally in the past, and then having a look at where your mind is running negative programs through your body, what effect that has on your body, and whether that's actually true going forwards or whether we can override that problem.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Which flows nicely on into thinking about, if we acknowledge our energy interruptions, it allows them to flow through the body. As I often speak about, when a child falls over and hurts themselves and their main carer comforts them and says, "Don't cry, you are fine," the child internalizes on a cellular level that it's not okay to be upset when he or she is hurt. This can be from a physical or emotional aspect. What helps us to move forward is acknowledging that we are hurt or sad. For optimum health, it is vital for us to understand the language of our body and to understand the stories we tell ourselves, recognizing the patterns that keep us small. A good exercise to do is to notice your energy levels during the monthly cycle. Monthly is a Zoe word, and it's between the full moon and the new moon. So a monthly cycle, when you feel more energized and when you feel more reflective. Negative emotions build up, and we often ignore the first few nudges of feeling annoyed or irritated. The body stores the negativity until it erupts like the pressure cooker. The emotional understanding of depression is suppressed anger. This is why it's so important to be honest with ourselves about our own emotions. When we are fully present with ourselves, we will still have waves to ride, but we don't fall off our surfboard so easily.
Very much so. So when we start to look at the solutions of what we can do with this, then realizing that Virgo really is reap and sow, or sow and reap, cause and effect. We're looking at health here. With Virgo, it's health. Health means whole. Healing means whole, to become complete in our entire cycle. So Virgo esoterically is ruled by the moon, the mother goddess, the mother conceiving to the childbirth. So gestation of the harvest, gestation of the child. So we're coming back into a sense of wholeness And the separation aspect of this is where the mind comes in. It creates this feeling of fight, flight, survival, separation. So most human problems and the emotions that come with them are due to the fact that we've seen ourselves as a victim, separate, and I need to protect ourselves. And a big aspect of 2021 is escaping our story, the human psychological story. And as I've said many times before, you are not the sum of your experiences taken personally. So when we take our story, what the mind's telling us, everything that's happened in the past, and we wrap that up and turn it into a story, turn it into a personality, then this is where all the pain and the emotions come up that need to be cleansed. But really, with Virgo opposite Pisces and stepping back into wholeness, we need to realize that we're not at all separate. This is a program that's been put on us to keep us in servitude. Virgo is a very servile sign. So the answer to Virgo's mental anxiety is Pisces' spiritual surrender. So a lot of the things that are coming up, what you can actually look at them as, is this really me? Or is it something I've taken personally that I actually just wanted to learn from? So when we uncouple from this is me to actually this is something I experienced in order to grow, then we start to step into the soul awareness of ourselves, that I'm more than this. I'm actually connected, I'm supported, I'm whole. And it's then working with Mercury and Virgo for perception. Because the one thing that we can do with the mind is change it. We can change our mind. So perception is a big part of this very Aquarian year. So when we look back, it's not to go back into the story. It's not to take it personally. It's not to integrate it because it was never you. It's to realize that you've just fallen into that trap of taking things personally, being a victim, and then bringing forward that need to protect and survive and struggle. But nearly all of our problems will be overridden when we realize that that was never true in the first place, and we surrender into the Piscean waters of our unity consciousness rather than living in lack and fear.
This brings me into thinking about and wanting to talk to you about, did you know that everybody who comes into your life comes in for a reason? And when we have a reaction to something someone says, this is a great opportunity to step outside of self, be curious and observe the behavior. What is that person mirroring in you? Again, lean into it, be curious about it, notice what it feels like. Equally, when we feel drawn to someone and love their energy, their vitality, their gentleness, whatever quality it might be, these qualities are also inside of you. So this is where the oneness is, that we are all the same. We are all one. I love that Virgo is opposite Pisces. Pisces is my sun. And I love that the symbol of Virgo is the mother and child. How do you mother and love yourself? And how does your child express him or herself? Love is all around us. We crave love, and yet we also reject love for fear of being hurt. But when we reject love, we are also rejecting ourselves. Often when we reject love, it comes from an old wound from when we were young, not feeling enough, not feeling accepted, not feeling valued. And over time, this becomes part of our conditioning and so familiar that we become harder on ourselves, drive ourselves harder to be better. And I want to ask, better for who? Better for what? The more we come into relationship with ourselves, the more life flows with grace and ease. The more we come into relationship with ourselves, the stronger our head to heart connection becomes, and we transcend the negative mind.
Perfect. Yes. So what we're dealing with here is very much going from the head to the heart, putting the heart in control. We're going from lack to unity. Okay. So going back to what you were saying about judgment of others. Judgment is a big aspect of Virgo. So originally, as I said, with the harvest agricultural backdrop, it's judging what needs to go where. That's a very productive form of judgment. But in the modern world, that's been taken as judging ourselves and judging others. So again, this comes from a lack perspective, because not being good enough and all of that kind of thing is where judgment comes in. Love is isness. You can't look for love because you already are love. So when we surrender from that lack of I need to look outside of myself or I need to look inside of myself to find love, and realize you are love. then everything becomes a lot simpler. So that's where Pisces really comes in, because it says you already are what you're looking for. Let's get the mind out of the way, change the perception. And this year we're going from head to heart, which means going from doing to being. So everything is about being now. It's about your true frequency and your essence. Stop believing that you're not that. Stop believing your story. Stop believing in separation. And really be very strong with the mind to work for you, like I say, to not create negative timelines, to escape by being present in the heart. And then we have that mother love, that nurture. All of this already is when we get out of our own way.
And as you were saying earlier, Zoe, the earthy energies of Virgo are also about the harvest, preserving and preparing for the winter months ahead so that we can nourish and nurture our bodies with healthy foods. What is your relationship like with your body and food? Do you have a negative body image, or do you love your body? A negative body image can be that you feel you look too large or too slim, your nose is too big, you're not tall enough, or you are too tall. Maybe you have some white hairs popping up. Anything where you criticize how you are and how you look. Do you control and restrict what you eat? Do you eat a lot of refined sugar or drink a lot of caffeine? All of these questions are just that, questions to ask yourself with curiosity. They are not about criticism or judgment, as that's when we slip back into the energies of the negative mind. When you're next out food shopping or thinking about preparing a meal, check in with your body and ask it what it feels like eating. You can do this in the supermarket too. When you're choosing your food, check in with how your body feels when you think about eating the foods you're choosing. This is working as a team.
Most definitely. And also to realize what food and eating is. If we get back to the fundamentals of that, you're not putting something into your body that you lack. Can you see how that would add to the lack consciousness? If I don't have this, then I'm not complete. What we're dealing with nutrition and that mother love, that gestation, that nurture, that abundance, is that you already have everything inside of you. And when we eat, it's simply a light transfer process. It's an activation process of what's already in you. So to me, it's actually more important what you're thinking when you're eating than what you eat. And there's been studies done that if somebody's having a big fat slice of chocolate cake and they're happy, it's more healthy for them than if they're eating an apple in a stressful state. So again, a massive change of perspective there, because it's really our mental diet that we need to look at this month. What am I thinking? What am I saying to myself? What am I ingesting? What am I digesting? What am I processing within? So I would say, look at blessing your food, look at being present when you eat, look at gratitude, step into your light body. We need to slightly get out of the physical now, because with the law of cause and effect, which is the fifth universal law, we're never going to fix something on a physical level. So even with, and as much as I love it, all the herbs and all the healing and all the healthy eating, there's actually a mental disorder now called Orthodexia, which is people that don't think they're eating healthily enough. So you can go to the absolute extreme of healthy eating. And I've seen it in the yoga world, where people are taking more and more out of their diet. You know, I need to stop eating this, I need to stop eating that. And then that ends up with massive reduction on anything that you can put in your body, and a level of stress that goes with whether you've had enough, I don't know, chickpeas today or something. It starts to become another mental disorder. So just look at eating, nourishment, wholesomeness as a light transfer. And this month, maybe step out of that physical body into the energy body and start to amplify that light, because that then allows the physical body to heal itself. Healing and wholeness, we actually heal already if we get out of our own way. So an example of this would be if you cut yourself, you don't heal your skin. It's healing itself. You just might do a few things to it, put some lavender oil or something on just to help that process. But your body's already healing itself, and it's the mind that gets in the way. So cause and effect would be to look at what mental attitude has caused the physical effect, and then be able to go back and heal that mental attitude. But very much to have a healthy and grateful and light-based attitude to what we eat physically, and to attend more to what we're thinking and what we're believing as part of the nourishment process as well.
Absolutely, I agree totally with that. I like also, though, that when you mentioned earlier about Virgo being around anxiety, because I guess I was talking about refined sugar and caffeine, and research shows that these two products in particular create more anxiety in the body. So that's where it's good to really just check that out with yourself and how that feels. I used to dread that back to school feeling in the autumn, but now I welcome and relish it as a time to start anew. This can be a time to start a new project. It can be a time to have a healthier diet, as Zoe was talking about, or maybe start a new exercise regime, or it might be to have a healthier bank balance. Anything that helps you to nourish your body and your mind more.
Yes, so we've got lovely back to school feeling, and we all want to be productive. But just a side note on that as well, we're in very different times now. So we're not going to judge ourselves by how much we can do and accomplish. Virgo will nearly always have a to-do list. It's very noticeable when you speak to somebody, and Virgo can be sun, moon or rising, but they're nearly always working from a to-do list. And within that, we've got a lot of shoulds. We've got a lot of self-judgment. You know, is the equation doing more equals success? Is that really the equation? Because this year going forwards is about being more. So I would say cut down on your to-do list. And Virgo is about being perfection in the process of perfecting. So just know that nothing's ever going to be perfect. You're not going to reach the end of that list. You're not going to reach the end of that timeline. And the study of astrology is testament to that. You'll never finish learning astrology. It's not about reaching the finish line and accomplishing the final goal. It's about enjoying the process. It's like a sculpture, just perfecting every day, but enjoying the process of learning, growing, and self-development. So when you do set your goals and your intentions, just make sure that they come from a place of your heart, your passion, that they're not too busy. We don't need busyness anymore, but just you're putting your vital life force energy to something that will be rewarding and nourishing and part of your vision as we go forward in these incredible times.
I have recently bought a dehydrator, and I'm looking forward to drying herbs from the garden in it. We have an abundance of sage and rosemary just now. Sage and rosemary are for Virgo and Pisces. And I learned recently that crushing a little fresh rosemary, infusing it in boiling water and then drinking it helps to ease headaches. I am certainly starting to pay more attention to all the wonders of nature around us and the natural herbs and medicines around us. The abundance and beauty of nature never ceases to amaze me. The colours, the geometric and sacred shapes all around us, the clouds, the elements. Spending time outside connecting with these aspects is invigorating and can shift our mood to one of joy and gratitude for all that we have at our fingertips. We all have this love of nature within us. If you haven't seen the film Fantastic Fungi, which is available on Amazon Prime and maybe now on Netflix, but I'm not sure about that, I strongly recommend you watch it, as it expands our minds in the most wonderful way with what goes on under the ground during the seasons. And the next time you are out walking, you will see everything from a different aspect.
Yep, that's a really lovely way to give your mind something to do, to attend to something like herbalism or learning a language, another aspect of Virgo. But yes, our connection with nature and how we can feel that gratitude and that presence. All good stuff. And obviously we've had quite a magical year, so it's lovely to bring forward the real healing and the real green aspect in such a medically focused year. So that's beautiful. Obviously, everybody used to farm by the moon cycles, so you could also have a look at when you plant and when you reap. So we don't just walk out into the garden and pick something. You're asking permission, but maybe you could plant something, or you could have a harvest festival in your own garden and then plant the new seeds. Maybe you could be more aware in general of when it's good to harvest something and when its energies are more potent. With my rescue remedies, I love to employ astrological dates and numerology as well. So you can take this really deep. It doesn't just have to be on a mundane level. You can actually create sacred potions and remedies according to the cycles of the moon, astrological alignments, and numerology as well. So a very big study there that we don't have time to go into, but incredibly rewarding, and I do recommend it to everybody. So this month we've got the second full moon in Aquarius coming up on the 22nd, probably when this video will be coming out. So we had a first full moon at 0 degrees, and we've got the second full moon at 29 degrees, really highlighting at the top of the year, because August is the kind of height of the year with Leo, ruled by the sun, bookending this sacred season in a year that's dominated by Aquarian energy anyway. So Aquarian energy has been responsible for what you're transmitting and receiving from your heart, your frequencies that go out and come back to you. And we're learning quantum heart manifestation, sovereignty and liberation. So very powerful Aquarius second full moon on the 22nd. And then we head towards the new moon in Virgo on the 6th, I think it is. So that will be a great time to set some new intentions with that beginning of that back to school feeling, and make sure your intentions are completely aligned with your soul desires. So those are the main moon aspects that we're coming into this month. Keep it simple and keep it present. But we're already in a growing movement of increasing consciousness and taking back our freedom. And Jupiter is right next to this full moon in Aquarius, and Jupiter is your majesty, where you rule yourself. So it's very exciting to see in this incredible year that we've got such powerful energies around us right now that we can harness.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Zoe, as always, for sharing your wonderful wisdom on this podcast. It's just lovely, and I love how they just intertwine with what we talk about together. And we really hope that all of you as the listeners will enjoy what we have talked about today. As always, if you have any questions at all, you're very, very welcome to contact either of us to find out more about it. Before we meet again for the Libran energies, Zoe and I hope you have a really wonderful Virgoan month, and we send you lots of love and thank you for listening.
Wishing you health, wealth and happiness.